Hello everybody, Justin from Playing Board Games here, and today I'm excited to talk about my 5 favorite cards from the Feast of Hemlock Vale. Previously, Hemlock Vale has been the subject of some of my list videos when I've talked about the cards that I thought were going to be the biggest game changers and the cards that I found the most surprising. Instead, now we're going to be focusing on the cards that I had the most fun with while exploring the card pool. I have not played extensively with every card that exists in Hemlock Vale. I don't need to play Blackmail File to know that I'm not going to be enjoying Blackmail File. So these are 5 cards that I've the best way to put it is the 5 cards that I've built around the most. So I've put them in the most decks or forced them into the most decks, and I am not getting sick of the cards, and I enjoy coming up with new ideas for where to play these cards. If you've been following the channel for a while, you might know some of these are, so if you are right and your predictions are good, let me know in the comments which ones you predicted right. Let's start with our first one here, which is Task Force. This is a 2-cost Guardian event. It's a tactic and a double. So as additional cost to play Task Force, spend an action. 1 at a time in any order, choose an investigator at your location. 2, resolve an action ability on an asset they control without paying its action cost. Move to a connecting location and discover 1 clue at their location. If there's one thing that I think perfectly sums up what I really like in a card, it's when it's just boring and it generates enough incremental value that the card is worth the slot in your deck. And that is probably the most sad thing I've ever said in my life, that is like my favorite type of card in this game, but it's true. Task Force is a perfect example of that kind of thing. It asks very little. It asks for a card from your hand and 2 resources and 2 actions, and you get 3 actions out of it. One of those actions is working a hunch. So you're basically playing a working a hunch where you also get a move and you also get a resolve an action ability on one of your things. Where the real value of this card comes from is not just looking at it like that, because when you look at it like that, it's not that great. And the card also doesn't read as particularly great. But the value of this card is that you can determine the order in which these happens to best solve the mystery of how you can use Task Force most efficiently. And to me, that is what is the most fun about card games like this, which is finding the most efficient line with the tools that you have, and then using that efficiency to grind the game into dust. And Task Force is very good at, giving you those small little pieces to trigger a variety of things. Because it's just an action ability on an asset you control, there's a lot of different variants in terms of what you can actually accomplish with it, and it also doesn't fit into just one niche. And even though this is a card that discovers a clue, you can play this as a fighter to still also fight an enemy, move, and grab a clue. Yes, it does provoke an attack of opportunity, so you need to be aware of that sort of thing, but you don't need to be engaged with the enemy. You can do it in a variety of different ways. There's just a lot of different ways to sum up and figure out how your task force is going to work, and it can be surprisingly efficient for asking very little. So again, the reason why this one's making the cut for me personally is mostly just because it's a boring card, but it's also an efficient card, and I love efficiency. It just there's those people who like to build their giant combos, and more power to them, right? And you use that thing and you're like, I'm using this one action to get 6 clues, and it took me 4 actions to get there. I'm one of those guys, or 4 actions to set up and get there, and I got the payoff, and it's really cool. And now I'm gonna just get value out of that. My play style is more, how can I make every action as efficient as possible? So that's why Task Force works really well for me. I love this card. If you haven't played it, you should definitely play it. It's really good. If you're playing in 3 or 4 players, it's gorgeous. You just play this, if you are a support or a flex and you have this card in your pool, play it. Trust me, it's very good if you're playing 3 or 4 players. It's very good for that. All right, on to my next one here, which is Olive McBride 2. This is a Mystic card, level 2, 2 experience, takes up the ally slot, soaks for 1 and 3. She's an ally and a witch. As a reaction, when you would reveal a Chaos token, exhaust Olive McBride, reveal 4 Chaos tokens instead of 1, choose 2 of those tokens to resolve and ignore the rest. My apologies if you watch a lot of our content, because I've actually been raving about Olive McBride quite recently, quite frequently. with Father Mateo. I've been playing that, and I released a video that Father Mateo is good now, and the big reason for that was Olive McBride. But the reason why Olive McBride is one of my favorite cards from the Feast of Hemlock Vale is the power boost that she's given to certain investigators, like Jim in Father Mateo, in Sister Mary if you're playing Nun with a Gun. She is just really good at making a build viable that previously was a little bit less viable. If you're token fishing in any sort of way, and you have access to Olive McBride 2, putting her in your deck is going to just greatly improve your efficiency at doing that kind of thing. However, let's take that away and let's talk about the real reason why I like Olive McBride 2, and it's because she's so freaking good. Like, there's a lot of strong allies in the Mystic class, in the experience thing. There's Twyla, there's Diana, right? Twyla gives you more charges, Diana lets you use events over and over and over again, and those are cool. But you know what's also cool? Just passing one test every turn, and just like being happy with it. Because again, we are not seeking explosive value, we are seeking consistent value over here at my side of the table. And that's why Olive McBride is really exciting to me, because she essentially says, pass a test once each turn. And I can't say no to that value. And yes, I am building her in a variety of fun ways, in addition to her way that is just like hyper efficient. There's a lot of cool things you can do that, like curse token fishing, paradoxical fishing. These are all like cool things that you can do with Olive that are neat. But she's also just like really strong. And I think she's aggressively costed, which makes it even more exciting to play with her because she feels worth it. But if you have a payoff 2-token fishing, she becomes even better. So it's kind of like a two-sided sort of thing for why I like her so much. Because she is exposing a lot of, not exposing, she is allowing a lot of builds to pop off in ways that previously they weren't popping off. But in addition to that, she's also just a really strong card, and she's fun to build around top to bottom, no matter what you're trying to do with her. So Olive McBride, great upgrade, great card. And it's crazy what just changing one number does, huh? Reveal 3 to instead reveal 4 is kind of just, it's a very, very powerful upgrade for showing what the value of just 1-digit change, just +1 or -1, can do in power level for a card game. All right, let's keep this going with my third card, which is Steady-Handed. This is a 2-cost, 1 experienced seeker asset. It's a talent in the science, level 1 per investigator. As a reaction, when you would succeed a skill test, exhaust Steady-Handed, you either succeed by 1 more or 1 less, and if you succeeded by exactly 2, heal 1 horror. Again, this card is actually pretty boring on the tin. That's me though. I'm pretty boring on the tin. Let's be real with it. But what this card does is it opens up consistency for the succeed by exactly X archetype in the Seeker class, which is, spoiler alert, personally one of my favorite archetypes we've seen in a very long time, to the point where I actually even like it with Dr. Charles West III. I think it's such an archetype made for me. We'll get to that in a few. We're going to get to that in a few. But what I also like about Steady-Handed is that it keeps you alive, which is really efficient. But the thing that Steady-Handed has really started popping off for me is the versatility that Steady-Handed actually provides. And it's actually, it's smaller than that statement gives it credit for. But what Steady-Handed does, and it's been surprising me, is just the amount of times where I've actually been like, oh, this is relevant here, I kind of want to play it. An example of this is a Trish Scarborough deck, or like a Monerary Jack deck, where you are taking advantage of some of the rogue cards that care about how much you succeed by, and now suddenly you are succeeding by just 1 more every time. The 1 less matters more for the succeed by exactly X, at least in the play that I have had with Steady-Handed. So there's kind of like that little thing that I have more to hopefully discover with that. Because it doesn't really work, I mean, like it might work with some Survivor stuff that hasn't clicked with me yet. If you actually can think of where that succeed by one less works with survivors, please let me know down in the comments, because I haven't explored it too much, but I feel like there might be something there that you can do with it. Also works with like that card Empirical Hypothesis to make that card even better, which is also just like slow trickle value, which is really nice. But what I really like for this card is that it's provides a cushion for Roland Banks, which is really fun because I played a Roland Banks recently that was all about even and science tools. So it was like an even costed Jeremiah Kirby deck, and this Steady Handed was a big part of it, and it also just makes Roland really good at that. I think there's some control as well when it comes to succeeding by exactly amounts for encounter cards too, and like locations. So like, don't sleep on Steady Handed. I will probably put this as a one of in most decks that can run it until I'm sick of it. The question is when I will be sick of it. That's a great question, and I'm going to play it in every deck that requires any sort of token manipulation. I have beard hair in my mouth. How disgusting. Oh, mustache hair, rather. Is that because this is mustache, that's beard. This is not my beard, even though it's connected like this. I don't want to get into it. This is not a Travis and Bernard here. I can't get into weird tangents. It's strange if I do it by myself. I look a little bit crazy. All right, let's go on to my next card here, which is Longshot, baby. This is a survivor, level 0 skill. It's practiced, which is notable. You may commit Longshot to a fight or evasion test against an enemy or location or connected location. If this test is successful, deal 1 damage. This card popped off in the early days of Hemlock Vale because I'm pretty sure it was in the first announcement article, but it has incredible art, like in some of the best we've seen in a long time. The flavor of it is really funny. Like, there's just like so much to love about this card. And then you play with it and it's somehow even better. I always would talk about this card as the Vicious Blow, right? So this is here to be the Vicious Blow. But neglecting that evade was probably one of my biggest mistakes when it came to first talking about this card when I did my initial stuff. I probably touched on it where like it can be good with the evade, but it is very good with the evade. You don't realize how often you suddenly are just like, you're evading an enemy until someone at your table says, hey, I'm going to commit a long shot to this. And then you're like, wait a minute, this changes the math completely. Now I can attack this thing and I don't need to do this thing and yada, yada, yada. And we can just get some incremental value on this evade. That's actually pretty sick. And that was when Longshot really started popping off for me. So if you haven't seen it in our Dream Eaters run, when Eric's blind run, I was playing Winifred, Eric was playing Min, and Eric was running 2 of these long shots. And every time Eric threw one of these long shots at a test, I was like, this is the greatest thing I've seen in my entire life. I've been trying it out in like Silas and Rita, obviously, as kind of a more like evade-focused part of it. And it is really nice. It's obviously good in Silas because he also does want to fight. And I mean, a lot of survivors who do evade do also want to fight. So Longshot works really there as well. Like, I knew this card was going to be good. It's one of the few cards in Hemlock Vale that I actually gave a 5 to. I have a video, there's going to be a video coming out in the near future, a list video where I say, I have to talk about the cards I was most wrong about. Longshot, no, I gave this one a 5. I still think it's probably like just pretty easily the strongest card in Feast of Hemlock Vale. Now, I know someone's probably thinking, but Justin, what about the frickin' Myconids? I don't care about the Myconids. You have to build around them. Like, the Myconids, this is a 0-cost card that is going to help you win just as much as the Myconids. The Myconids help you not lose. This helps you win. And they're both kind of the same thing in the power level they do. Shut up about the Myconids. I don't care. They're strong cards, yes, but it's fine. If the Myconids make you upset, you need to go outside. I'm going to say that as well. And I'm going to go outside and throw a brick at somebody because that's what Longshot makes me feel. Yeah, it's just a very strong card, and it's going to fit in so many different homes. All right, now, my favorite card, which if you've been watching the channel since Hemlock Vale comes out, you might be able to guess what it is, and also because of the spoilers. My boy, Chemistry Set. 2 cost, takes up the accessory slot in the Seeker class. Item, tool, science. As an action, exhaust chemistry set and investigate. If you fail by exactly 2, discard chemistry set. If you succeed by exactly 0, gain 2 resources. If you succeed by exactly 2, draw 1 card. If you succeed by exactly 4, discover 1 additional clue at your location. You would be surprised at how often this card pops off. Let me ask a question. How many times do you think this needs to trigger for it to be worth it? And remember that each time you're also getting a clue on top of it, because that changes the value. For me personally, if I hit the gain 2 resources once, it hasn't done it. If I hit it twice, it's done it. If I hit like the gain 2 resources and the draw card once each, I think it's done it. If I hit the draw 1 card once, for me personally, I think that's done it. Because like resources they're both easy to come by in the Seeker class, but it's like one of those things that they're kind of nice to hit. So like it's just like it feels nicer to draw the card. And if I hit the clue once, I've triggered it. Now, what if I told you that you're probably going to actually trigger this, assuming you play this on like turn 1, like 6 to 8 times in a scenario? Isn't that kind of crazy? Yes, you do need to build around it to take full advantage of it. I'm not going to deny that for a second. But I have now forced chemistry set into so many different decks. My Roll and Bank even Science deck, which was insane. My Kate deck, which is not really forcing because Kate works really well with it. I built a Marie Lambeau deck with chemistry set in it, and I had a great time with it. I have never regretted playing chemistry set, and I have just, it's just crazy the amount of just value it gives you over the course of the game as you are playing it. A lot of people, myself included, were pretty down on this card when it was first spoiled. And I think those people who are still down on this card haven't played with it, one, or have played with it, but don't like think through. They don't do science when it comes to doing a test. Because on standard difficulty, I will say I do think this card becomes notably worse on hard and expert. But I don't play on hard and expert, so I'm coming with the opinion from standard. Where -2 is a pretty good number to be up. Which means that if you are up 4, and you're going to be because you're a Seeker and you have like magnifying glasses in your hand, or Dr. Milan, or you're committing perception, or you're Kate Winthrop and you're putting clues on your science or tool assets, right? You're going to be up 4, which means every time you play this card, or you use this card, it is very, very likely that you're going to hit a perception style effect. Maybe if you're up 2, and you hit like the -2, you now hit a Burning the Midnight Oil style effect. If you're up 4, because you were planning to, because your numbers are just so big, or you committed a card to draw something, and you hit a 0, you just got a deduction out of this card. And like, that's really good. And again, if this triggers every turn, which it is very likely to do, that just becomes that much juicier. Now, if we go back to steady-handed, and if you play that and chemistry set, which again, I have forced quite a bit, and I'm still not sick of it because I just love it when you get insane value out of your cards, this is going to trigger every turn the way you want it to. You do need to be aware of chemistry set that taking the risk of investigating a 2-shroud location while you're like 6 to 2, an auto fail will cause you to lose that. However, you shouldn't like worry too much about that if you have already gotten value out of your chemistry set. Maybe if you haven't and you want to like, play a little bit scared, go for it. Be a little bit scared. But as soon as you get like, again, some value, like maybe 2 exactly zeros, 1 exactly 2, 1 exactly 4, or like however your threshold is, who cares if you lose it, right? Just go for it. You just need to be aware, and you just need to be a little bit, I'm trying to think of the word for it, but you just have to like know that if you're like, if it's a 3-shroud location and you are up 4, sorry, if you're at a 3-shroud location and you are up 2, like, is that it's probably good enough, 5 to 4, but you need to be aware that there is a -4 in there, so maybe you go up one more, or you're using magnifying glass, so you're already 6 to 3. And now suddenly, like, the -4 is not going to cause you to fail by exactly 2. These are the things that I think the chemistry set improves, and it improves if you have that kind of line of thinking as you're playing it. And if you want to just get passive drip value again and again and again and again and again and again, I think Chemistry Set is the card for you. If you want to see this in action, I'll link in the video description my Even Science roll-in gameplay. And I think that is such a showcase of what the card can do in a deck that you would normally never consider playing this card in. But it's just that much value generation that I think it's a juice that's worth the squeeze. And with that, those are my 5 favorite cards from the Feast of Hemlock Vale. What are some of yours? Please let me know down in the video comments. Huge thank you to all of our patrons down below me. You can also join our Patreon down by clicking the link in the video description, or you can join our YouTube memberships, which I opened up recently as well, and you can get monthly deck lists, through that. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Have a good one, and as always, GG's!